Students, I am your research teacher, Mr. Anil Kumar Swami. Welcomes you to the Gyan Jyoti online classes. Students, today we will study the section history, and the name of the chapter is the first empire, Mauryas. Students, what do you mean by Mauryas? Mauryas were a dynasty, the kingdom, the kings. Empire means, students, their kingdom, we can say. And students, let us recall some of the chapters we have read before, that new ideas and religions, early humans, early farmers, Janapadas. So after that, the first empire means the very first kings of the Indian subcontinent. So who were they? They were the Mauryas. Students, have you heard about the name of Chandragupta Maurya, Chanakya? From that era it started, and the first great king we'll study about is Alexander the Great. He was not an Indian, but let us we have to study about him in this chapter. In an earlier chapter, students, we have studied by about the 6th century BC. Many kingdoms had come up in the Ganga Valley. Among these, Magadha had become the most powerful one. Students, Magadha is the present day Bihar. Then, students, the rich and strong kingdom became the seat of a mighty empire by the 4th century BC. Students, the Magadha kingdom became one of the most rich and prosperous kingdom by the 4th century BC. We will study about, students, who was Alexander the Great, about him, that how his invasion affected India or it didn't affect India. So what are the different conditions? Alexander the Greek ruler, students, he was a Greek ruler of Macedonia, who wanted to conquer the world. Alexander was a great king. He wanted to conquer the whole world. He was a Greek ruler. From Macedonia. The name of the place is Macedonia. He set out on a campaign which is characterized by the greatest military campaigns in ancient history. So he moved out from his place to conquer the whole world. Then the region around the Mediterranean Sea and set towards India. So he moved from his place, that is called Macedonia, to the Mediterranean Sea and towards India he came. Then he conquered the Persian Empire on his way. In 326 BC, he reached Takshila. Students, in 326 BC, it was before Christ. He reached Takshila. Then he fought Porus, who ruled over the area between Jhelum and Chenab. Because his soldiers had been tired of fighting, so he decided to return, and he died in Babylon. He died in Babylon in 323 BC. Okay, students. Then this is all about Alexander the Great. Then Alexander's invasion did not affect India directly because he left as soon as he came. He didn't remain in India for a longer period. But indirectly it paved the way for Chandragupta Maurya. We'll study all about the kingdoms, all of the kings of the Mauryan dynasty one by one. Then Alexander left the territories that he had conquered in the northwest under his general Seleucus Nicator. Students, his general was there. His name was Seleucus Nicator. After Alexander's death, Seleucus became the ruler of the conquered Indian territories. Many Greeks settled in northwest region. With this, Greek and Indian culture began to intermingle. Students, we must know one thing, that as different invaders came to India to invade, to rule from different parts of the country. Let us take the example. Now we are talking about Alexander the Great. In higher class, you will study that how the Mongolians, Turks, Afghans, Iraqis, so all this type of then in modern India we will study the Portuguese, the French, the Britishers. All of these conquerors, invaders came to India, they ruled over India, and their culture intermingled with our Indian culture. It will happen obviously, because if someone comes, they will leave their presence in terms of by monuments making or buildings making, they will marry with them. So these are some of the steps the different cultures intermingle with ours. And we can see, students, if you will ever visit Goa and Pondicherry, then you can see the Portuguese effect and the French effect can be seen in large numbers in their culture, food habits, clothing style, their buildings, monuments, etc. etc. Students, now we will study about the Mauryas in detail. The first empire. In this Mauryan dynasty, students will study about 3 to 4 kings, about their invasions, about their achievements. The first one is, students, Chandragupta Maurya. Students, then the second one is Bindusara, Ashoka, then Bindusara. First one is Chandragupta Maurya, second one is Bindusara, and the third one is Ashoka. Then, students, we all know that Ashoka was one of the greatest king or emperor in our Indian history. Students, first of all, these are the major 3 Mauryan kings, and we will study about them one by one. The coming of the Mauryans to power marks a new period in the history of India. Until then, India was divided into small kingdoms. Students, it is of high importance because it was the first empires in the Indian history. Then, the Mauryan rulers unified a large part of our country under one single rule, under the umbrella of a single Mauryan dynasty. They established the first empire in the history of India. Then, they controlled a large area from a single power center, that is the capital, where the king lived. They maintained a large army to suppress internal rebellions inside the kingdom and repel external attacks. Students, before we go to this topic, Chandragupta Maurya, we'll study something about the Mauryas in detail. That is about the sources. Students, what are the sources by which we know about the Mauryas? Students, we know that there are majorly two types of sources to know about our history, about our past. So what are they? The first one is the archaeological sources, second one is the literary sources. Then the main sources of information about the Mauryas are given. That is what? The Arthashastra, this is the most important thing, students. The Arthashastra. Arthashastra book written by Kautilya and the Indica by Megasthenes and Indica by Megasthenes, who was the envoy of Seleucus Nicator to the court of Chandragupta Maurya. The Arthashastra is a book written on politics and the art of governance. It deals with the political and military administration of the Mauryans. The rock and pillar edicts of King Ashoka. These inscriptions give a lot of information, details about the king and his empire. And coins of the Mauryan period also gives us information about the rulers. Students, the first one is the two books. First one is Arthashastra and the second is Indica. The second one is, students, the rock and pillar edicts of King Ashoka. Third one is, students, the coins of the Mauryan period, who gives us information about the rulers. Students, these are the three types of sources. Now we will come to the first ruler of the Mauryan Empire, that is the Chandragupta Maurya. He was the first ruler of the Mauryan Empire or the dynasty. He was the first ruler of the dynasty. He was the first ruler of the dynasty. He is regarded as the first empire building in India. He was helped by Vishnu Gupta Chanakya. Chanakya is considered as the most intelligent person in Indian history, who is also known as Kautilya. He trained young Chandragupta. He was very intelligent, so he trained the young Chandragupta in the art of statecraft and politics. In 321 BC, he succeeded in 321 BC. He succeeded in defeating the last Nanda ruler of Magadha and started building an empire. Students, before him also there were some kings, but that didn't become very high. They didn't enlarged. They were not prosperous. They were not vast. So therefore they were very small empire. So he defeated the Nanda ruler of Magadha and started building an empire. After ascending the throne, Chandragupta appointed Chanakya as his prime minister. Students, Chandragupta Maurya, as he was helped by Chanakya from the childhood days, he appointed Chandragupta Maurya as his prime minister. He realized that there were too many small Janapadas. Students, we have studied about Janapadas. So he decided to establish a unified and strong kingdom by making them in one in North India. Chanakya authored Arthashastra, which is an important source of information about this period. We have studied, students, Chanakya was an important book written by Arthashastra was an important book written by Chanakya or Kautilya, which deals with the statecraft, the art of governance, military and political administration. Having brought the whole of North India under his control, Chandragupta Maurya turned towards the territories in the northwest that were under Seleucus. So Alexander has sometimes annexed some areas. So in a battle, the Mauryan ruler defeated Seleucus. married his daughter and entered into matrimonial alliances. Students, just look. Chandragupta Maurya defeated Seleucus Nicator and married his daughter and entered into the matrimonial alliances with that king. This strengthened his position further, and his empire extended from Bengal in the east to Afghanistan in the northwest. Chandragupta reigned peacefully for a period of 24 years. So he ruled for 24 years. He married with Seleucus Nicator's daughter, and he expanded his empire from Bengal in the east to Afghanistan in the northwest. Then Seleucus sent Megasthenes. He is also one of a writer, as his ambassador to Chandragupta Maurya's court. He stayed in Pataliputra. Students, Patna is the present day Pataliputra. For a number of years, he wrote an account of his stay, describing what he saw there. His account in Greek is called Indica. So, students, Arthashastra was written by Kautilya, but Indica was written by Megasthenes. His all account, what he saw, what about the accounts about his happenings, he has written in a book called Indica, and was about the capital, court, and life of the common people. It's an importance of information about the period. From these two books, students, Indica and Arthashastra, we can know about the Mauryan period, especially about the Chandragupta Maurya, the empire, the first empire. Students, then we will move to the second king, that is the Bindusar. Students, Bindusar ruled from 297 to this much. Chandragupta Maurya's son, as you know that the king's eldest son was becoming the next king, successor we can say. So, Chandragupta Maurya's son Bindusara was the next ruler. He extended his kingdom further. The empire stretched across the whole of the Indian subcontinent, except Kalinga and some kingdoms in the south. So they annexed almost all part of our country, all the Indian subcontinent. But they were unable to annex Kalinga and some parts of the south. Students, then we'll study about Ashoka, the greatest emperor of all time. He ruled from 273 to 232 BC. Students, there is a small term called empire. So, do you know the meaning of empire? Just by reading, or we can't, but I will tell you the meaning of empire means it is larger than a kingdom. It covers a large expanse of area, all under a single ruler. Therefore, the Mauryan dynasty's rule is called as the first empire. Before them also there were different types of rulers, but it was not an empire. The Mauryan dynasty is therefore considered as the first empire. Students, Ashoka succeeded his father Bindusara. Ashoka is characterized as Ashoka the Great, and one of the most important king of the world. He is best known his policy of Dhamma. Ashoka's edicts are a rich source of information about the history of his time, his reign, his empire. It is the first period in Indian history for which scholars have been considered written record. They have their written records of the Ashoka's period. Students, in Ashoka's period, the Great Kalinga War was the most important event. From then, he was changed and adopted Buddhism. So we'll study about that. This is the 261. It happened. The war took place in 261 BC. So students, Kalinga is our Odisha. You know, students, Odisha's old name is Kalinga. Utkala also we can call. Like any other ruler, Ashoka wanted to expand his empire all over the world. In keeping with this aim, he fought a war with Kalinga. So, as you all know that Bindusara was unable to annex Kalinga and some parts, some kingdoms of the south. The Kalinga war ended up being a turning point of his life. During the war, he saw the sufferings it had caused to the people. Many men, not just many, thousands and thousands of people died or were injured. Women became widows and children became orphans. Sufferings of the people are said to have left a lasting mark on him. He decided to not to fight any more wars. He thus emerged as the only king in history who willingly gave up warfare. He became a Buddhist and began to spread the message of Buddhism. He sent his son Mahendra and daughter Sanghamitra to Sri Lanka to spread Buddhism. Students, by this war he fought. He has won the war. He had won the war, but by letting it had led him to many sorrows because he was unable to see so much of death. Lots of people died, and therefore his mind changed and he adopted Buddhism. Then, students, he sent his son Mahendra and daughter Sanghamitra to spread Buddhism to Sri Lanka, and gradually, after some time, Buddhism was spread most of the parts of the world. Then, students, study about Asoka's Dhamma. Dhamma is a Prakrit form of the Sanskrit word dharma. Students, Dhamma means dharma. Sanskrit, it is a Sanskrit word, and dharma means dharma, religion, that is the Sanskrit version. It means religious code. Asoka's Dhamma was his message of peace. He wanted peace in his kingdom and was disturbed by quarrels among the Buddhists and the Brahmins. He persuaded his people to live peacefully with one another. He appointed officials called Dhamma, Mahamans, to enforce his edicts. They toured the kingdom and persuaded people to follow Dhamma and live together in peace, not to fight with the Brahmins. They wanted to live in peace. He gave up eating meat and also persuaded people not to kill any animal, to become vegetarians. He forbade the killing of peacocks and deer in the royal kitchen. Asoka believed in high moral values. He decreed that servants and slaves should be treated well, and the younger people should treat older ones with due respect. As a king, he treated his people as a father treats his children. His inscription records his views that all men are my children, just as I desire for my children as they may enjoy every kind of prosperity, peacefulness and happiness. So I desire the same for all my men. He had a deep concern about the welfare of his people. As a king, he had a deep concern. Then students will study about principles of Dhamma. Students, then we will study some of the principles of Dhamma or Dharma. We can say Dharma because it is a Sanskrit word. Students, through his Dharma, Asoka wanted to instill a spirit of tolerance, coexistence and non-violence among the people of their kingdom. The main principles, so there are some principles, let me write them in short. That the first principle of Dharma was to live together in peace and harmony. To live together in peace and harmony. Then students, his next principle was to always speak the truth. To always speak the truth. The next one, to respect other religions. other than Buddhism. Then students, the next one is to respect elders. Then the last, to follow the path of non-violence, ahimsa, and not harming any other creatures, let it be human beings, animals, birds. So this was some of his principles, to live together in peace and harmony, to speak the truth, to respect other religions, to respect elderly people. So this was some of his principles, and to help other people in times of need in every field. Then students will study about Ashoka's edicts. Ashoka's edicts. Ashoka wanted to take his ideas to the people at a large number. So he got his ideas inscribed on rocks and pillars, that is to say on hard surfaces. The pillars were made on sandstone and polished so that they shine in the sun and thus attract attention of the normal people. The inscribed messages are called edicts. Students, what are edicts? Edicts are messages which are inscribed. Edicts are inscribed messages. We'll write that. Inscribed messages on stones, on walls, okay, on rocks, pillars, okay. Students, the inscriptions or edicts of Ashoka were inscribed messages on rocks, pillars and walls. So the pillars were placed on an important places in the empire. Similarly, he chose the rocks that were situated on highways and main passages or the main roads, you can see, where the people, the general public can see, and they can, the inscriptions or the messages can draw their attention. He wanted to ensure that more and more people look at these edicts and try to read them and learn something from them. He wanted to spread the message of Buddhism, peace, non-violence to each and every corner of the country. It was because of this reason Ashoka used Prakrit. Students, Prakrit was the language of the common people, and the Brahmi script. Students, Brahmi and the Prakrit were one of the oldest scripts of our country. He didn't use Sanskrit because Sanskrit was also a language spoken in that era, but this was the language of the educated people. Not everywhere were educated. The Brahmins, especially the Brahmins and the Kshatriyas, at that time they were very educated. They learned the language Sanskrit, but the common people didn't understood it. They didn't learn it. Therefore, Prakrit and Brahmi was the medium of messages by the Ashoka and his empire. Then students, in the northwest India, he used Greek because Greeks had settled in large numbers in that area. As I have told you that Chandragupta Maurya had married daughter of Seleucus Nicator, the Greek ambassador of Alexander the Great. Therefore, in the northwest region, he used the language Greek because many people were residing there and they were from Greece. Students, then there is a fact, you must know this, that the lion capital, have you seen the coin? Then you can see 3 lions facing, but there is one more lion, there are 4 lions, that is the lion capital. From where it has come from? Our independent India adopted the lion capital from the pillar at Sarnath as a national emblem. Students, you know Sarnath is a place where national emblem has been adopted. It can be seen on currency notes also, in coins also, and the seal of the government of India. The Sarnath, lion capital, is the national emblem of our country. It is used on government, in every government offices, because it has been adopted as the national emblem of our country. So students, today we will study this much, and tomorrow we will study these umpires, different aspects, different fields like the taxes, people administration, central administration, provinces, villages, and all of them in detail, and who are the different kingdoms, different kings after the Mauryas. So students, for today I will say goodbye to all of you. Please watch this video and concentrate on your studies. Thank you. Bye bye.